Let's talk about reloads for the concealed carry holder. The typical defensive use of a firearm by a concealed carry holder does not require a reload. Most of the work, most of the stopping of the threat is done within one magazine. I only know of 1 or 2 cases out of several thousand where a concealed carry holder or a civilian had to use a reload. Most of the time the threat is stopped within that first magazine. In a law enforcement or military context, it's very different. The reason why you're engaging a threat is very, very different. So a prolonged gunfight is more probable. But again, for a civilian, it just typically doesn't happen. Plus, most concealed carry holders only carry one magazine, and that's the one that's in their firearm. To carry another magazine, you either have to fill up your pockets, you have to have a holster with a magazine carrier on it, and we're trying to stay concealed. We're trying to go smooth, trying not to print, and the more stuff that you put on your body, frankly, the more able other people are going to be able to see your firearm. And the whole idea behind concealed carry is the concealed portion of the carry. So let's say you do have a second magazine and you do need to reload if you're in some sort of an altercation. There's 2 methods that are taught to put the gun back into action, and we'll talk about those. First of all, I'm carrying a Glock 19 here, so I've got 15 plus 1. Most likely that I'm going to be able to get the work done within that number of rounds. Maybe not. Typically, that's where I hedge my bets. I put it towards that I can do everything within one magazine. Ideally, I'm not even getting into an altercation, but if I do need to stop a threat, I can do it within one magazine. So the gun is empty, okay? And let's say I go to slide lock. So I'm putting rounds on target. For some reason, I have to continue to shoot. I have multiple threats, or this guy just isn't stopping, and I go to slide lock. There's 2 different ways that I can put the gun back in action. Obviously, I'm going to go for my second magazine, put it in the firearm, and there's 2 ways that I can put it back in the battery. The first one is with a thumb release, so using the slide stop as the release, or also I can come over the top, and because I don't have any cartridges in the magazine, I'm going to have to use the thumb release. I can come over the top using the push-pull and getting back on the target. With my students, with very few exceptions, I teach the over-the-top method, and here's why. What we're trying to do, when I work with my students, I have to realize that they have a limited amount of time, they have a limited amount of money, and they need to put that time and money where with the highest probability of success. The only time that I ever see using a slide stop as a slide release is during a slide lock reload, okay? Or if I'm initially engaging the gun, but really when I'm working, it's during that one time with almost a 0 probability of occurrence. Again, we're talking civilian concealed carrier. So I'm training someone to do something that they're only going to do probably never, as opposed to teaching them a method that may be a little bit slower, but is used for malfunction clearance. So we tap, rack, okay? If we have, any time that I need to put the gun back in the battery, I can do this instead of using the slide lock as a slide release, where the probability of actually using it is 0. So why would I teach someone who has a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money a skill that they're probably never ever going to use in the real world? That's why I don't. Now, I do work with, I have clients that is the way that they operate their firearm. That's cool. That's the way that they do it. Continue doing it. You know, they may be a competitive shooter, they may be in law enforcement, they may be in military, where they're going to have reloads. But again, for the typical civilian defensive concealed carry holder, this is something that they're never going to do. So that's why I teach over the top. You're free to use whichever technique works best for you. Keep in mind, this is a little bit slower unless you train it. If I train it, which I do, I can do my over the top just about as fast as I can do the thumb release. So keep that in mind. Pick what's going to be best for you. Your defense is personal. Dave Bremson with Safe Mind.